Myra stepped off the small shuttle and felt the wind of the cliffside village brush against her face. The air smelled of salt and fresh greenery, carrying the faint scent of flowers she could not name. Below, the endless ocean stretched to the horizon, dotted with floating islands that shimmered in the sunlight. Myra's heart skipped a beat. She had seen pictures, but nothing compared to standing here in real life. She adjusted the strap of her backpack and glanced at the narrow stone path that led into the village. The buildings were unlike anything she had ever seen. They were tall and thin, balancing on the edge of cliffs as if daring the wind to knock them down. Bright fabrics hung from balconies, fluttering like flags in the breeze. Some houses had small gardens with flowers and vines clinging to the stone walls. Myra's eyes shone with curiosity and excitement. "Welcome to Alara," said a soft voice. Myra turned to see a young villager standing nearby. His brown hair was tousled by the wind, and his eyes were calm and observing. "I am Aaron. If you need directions or help, I can show you around." Myra smiled, adjusting her backpack again. "Thank you. I'm Myra. I'm here to study your architecture, and maybe a little to see the view," she said, trying to sound confident despite the nerves in her stomach. Aaron nodded. "The cliffs can be tricky to navigate. It is easy to slip if you are not careful. Follow me, and I will take you to your guest house." As they walked along the narrow path, Myra noticed how the village seemed alive with movement. Children ran barefoot along the stone streets, their laughter echoing against the cliffs. Vendors called out, offering fruit and small crafts, while birds of bright colors flitted between the balconies. Myra could not help but stop and look at everything. Every corner of the village seemed full of life, yet peaceful at the same time. Aaron led her to a building perched near the edge of a cliff. A small wooden balcony jutted out, giving a full view of the ocean. "This will be your room," he said, opening the door. "The view is better in the morning and evening. You might want to spend some time on the balcony." Myra stepped inside and let her backpack fall to the floor. The room was simple but cozy, with a small bed, a wooden desk, and a window that framed the ocean perfectly. Her eyes wandered to the balcony. The cliff dropped sharply beneath it, and she felt a shiver of both fear and excitement. Slowly, she stepped out onto the balcony. The wind was strong, whipping her hair around her face. She held the railing and looked down at the ocean, watching waves crash against the rocks far below. A soft voice startled her. "It is stronger than it looks, isn't it?" Myra turned to see Aaron standing on the path below, looking up at her with a small smile. She laughed nervously. "Yes, it is. I think I will have to get used to it." Aaron nodded. "Most people take time. But once you do, it becomes part of you. The cliffs, they make people careful, but also strong." Myra leaned on the railing, letting the wind brush against her face. "It feels like standing on the edge of the world," she said quietly. She did not know why, but she felt a strange connection to this place. The cliffs, the ocean, the floating islands, everything felt alive, as if the land itself was breathing. "You have a way of noticing things others do not," Aaron said, tilting his head slightly. "Not many people stop to look at the details. Most are afraid to even stand here." Myra smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. "I like noticing things. It makes the world feel bigger, and smaller at the same time." Aaron's gaze softened. "I think you will like it here. The village, it has a way of finding people who belong." As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, the sky turned shades of orange and pink. Myra stayed on the balcony, watching the colors reflect on the water and the floating islands. The wind played with her hair, and for the first time in a long time, she felt completely free. Aaron's presence below was quiet, but comforting, like the calm before a new adventure. The evening settled over the cliffs, and lights from the village began to twinkle like stars on the edge of the world. Myra took a deep breath, letting the salty air fill her lungs. She knew that this place, with its dangerous cliffs and breathtaking views, would change her life in ways she could not yet understand. And somehow, she sensed that Aaron, the quiet young villager, would be part of that change. For the first time in her travels, Myra felt a mix of excitement and anticipation. The cliffside balcony was not just a view, it was the start of something new, something she had been searching for, even before she knew it existed. The morning sun spilled over the cliffside village, painting the buildings in gold. Myra stood on her balcony, sipping a cup of warm tea, and watched the villagers move about their routines. Today was the Festival of Light, a celebration she had heard about during her research. Lanterns would float over the ocean at night, carrying wishes and messages of hope. Myra felt a flutter of excitement. She had never seen anything like it. A soft knock on her door made her turn. Aaron stood there, holding a small basket of flowers. "Good morning," he said, smiling. "I thought you might like these for the festival. They are from my garden." Myra's face lit up. "They're beautiful." "Thank you, Aaron." She took the flowers and arranged them in a small vase on her desk. "Will you be helping with the festival today?" she asked. Aaron nodded. "Yes. I am assigned to help visitors." "You will be busy with the decorations, I think." "I can help anywhere," Myra said eagerly. "I want to see everything and learn as much as I can." Aaron's eyes sparkled slightly. "Then come with me. I will show you where to start." They walked through the village streets together. Children ran past, laughing, and villagers carried lanterns, flowers, and ribbons. Myra admired the vibrant colors and the careful arrangements of the decorations. Aaron guided her to a large open courtyard near the cliff's edge, where long tables were being set for the evening feast. "We will start here," he said. "The lanterns are kept at the edge, ready to be released at night." Myra bent down to help arrange the lanterns. She noticed how meticulous the villagers were, tying strings carefully, placing flowers at the base, and ensuring each lantern was balanced. Aaron worked beside her silently at first, but soon he began to point out little details. "Make sure this one is straight," he said gently, adjusting a lantern with his hands. "It will float better if it is balanced." Myra smiled at his careful attention. "You really know your craft," she said. Aaron shrugged. "It is tradition. But I enjoy seeing it come together. It feels peaceful." As they worked, Myra began to feel more comfortable around him. His calm presence made her feel at ease, even when the wind from the cliff tried to tug at her hair or the lanterns. They shared small smiles and exchanged light conversation, laughing whenever something went slightly wrong. A lantern would tip, or a ribbon would fall into the wind, and they would straighten it together, the moment simple yet full of quiet joy. By midday, the courtyard was almost ready. Myra wiped her hands on a cloth and took a step back, marveling at the sight. The lanterns were lined up along the cliffside, each one decorated with flowers and small symbols. The whole scene looked magical, even in daylight. Aaron joined her, leaning on the railing of the balcony above the courtyard. "It looks good," he said softly. "The festival will be beautiful tonight." Myra nodded. "I can't wait to see it." I've never seen anything like this before. She hesitated, then added, "Thank you for showing me everything. I feel like I understand the village better because of you." Aaron's lips curved into a small smile. "I am glad. You are easy to show things to. Most visitors just watch but do not notice details." As the sun began to set, Myra and Aaron climbed to the cliffside balcony that overlooked the ocean. The sky turned shades of pink and orange, reflecting on the water below. Myra held a lantern in her hands, feeling its weight and warmth. Aaron handed her another, his fingers brushing hers lightly. They stayed side by side, releasing lanterns one by one. Each floated gracefully into the sky, joining hundreds of others that glowed like stars above the water. Myra felt a strange happiness, as if each lantern carried a piece of her heart into the world. Aaron's presence beside her made the moment even more special. "Do you make wishes?" Myra asked, watching the lanterns rise higher. Aaron nodded. "Always. It is part of the festival. But sometimes, just watching them go is enough." Myra smiled and released her lantern, feeling it drift upward with the others. "I think I understand now," she said. "There is something peaceful about letting things go, even if only for a moment." The two of them stood together on the balcony, watching the lanterns float farther into the sky. The festival lights reflected on their faces, and Myra felt a warmth in her chest she could not explain. For the first time since arriving, she felt truly connected to the village, to this strange and beautiful world, and to the quiet young man standing beside her. The night deepened, and the ocean glimmered under the lantern light. Myra knew that this evening was only the beginning. Somehow, she felt that the Festival of Light had not only brought the village together but also connected her to something bigger, something she had been missing in her life. And as she glanced at Aaron, she felt a quiet certainty that he would be part of the journey ahead. The morning sun spilled gently across the cliffside village, casting long shadows between the stone buildings. Myra stretched on her balcony, savoring the calm before another busy day. The Festival of Light had ended, but the village remained alive with quiet energy. Villagers moved along the paths, tending gardens or repairing homes, their laughter and chatter filling the air. Myra could hear the soft splash of the ocean far below, and she felt a strange sense of peace in the rhythm of life here. A knock at her door drew her attention. "Good morning," Aaron said, holding a small basket of fruits. "I thought you might like some breakfast." Myra smiled warmly. "You didn't have to, but thank you. This is very kind." Aaron shrugged, setting the basket on the table. "It is no trouble. I thought we could have breakfast on the balcony. The wind is gentle today, and the view is worth sharing." They sat together, sharing the fruits while the ocean stretched endlessly before them. Myra admired how calm and thoughtful Aaron was. He spoke little, but every word seemed meaningful. For some reason, she found herself wanting to hear more from him, to understand the quiet depths of his world. After breakfast, Aaron suggested a walk along the cliffside path. "I know a place few visitors go," he said. "It is quiet, and you can see the cliffs from a different angle." Myra agreed eagerly. They walked side by side, careful of the uneven stones and loose gravel underfoot. Aaron pointed out different plants growing along the cliffs, small flowers that seemed impossible to survive in such harsh winds. Myra listened attentively, amazed by how much life could exist in such precarious places. As they reached a small overlook, Myra sat on a rock, taking in the breathtaking view. The sun danced on the ocean, casting patterns of gold and blue. Aaron stood beside her, his gaze following hers, silent but steady. After a moment, Myra spoke. Aaron, can I ask you something personal, she said, her voice quiet, almost hesitant. He turned to her, eyes attentive. Of course. Why do you stay here, she asked. The village, it is beautiful, but small. Don't you ever dream of leaving, of seeing more of the world? Aaron's gaze softened. He looked out at the ocean for a moment before answering. I used to dream of leaving, he said slowly. But this village, these cliffs, they are part of me. My family, my people, the land itself, they hold me here. I care for it, even if it means giving up some dreams. Myra listened, feeling a pang of understanding. She had come to this planet seeking adventure and freedom, but she could see now how responsibility and love could tie someone to a place. I think I understand, she said softly. There are things worth staying for, even if it means missing something else. They sat together in silence, letting the wind and the sound of the ocean fill the space between them. After a while, Myra spoke again, her voice lighter this time. Can I tell you a secret? Aaron's eyebrows lifted slightly. You can tell me anything. I've always felt like I didn't belong anywhere, she admitted. Even on Earth, I was searching for something I couldn't name. And then I came here, and it feels different. I feel like maybe I've found a place where I can belong, even if it's just for a while. Aaron nodded, his eyes gentle. Sometimes belonging is not about where you are, but who you are with. And maybe, you can find that here, too. Myra's heart warmed at his words. She realized, in that moment, that Aaron had become more than a guide or a friend. He was someone who understood her in ways she had never expected. As the afternoon sun grew stronger, they began walking back toward the village, slowly and carefully. They talked about small things, favorite foods, strange habits, and stories from their childhoods. Myra found herself laughing more than she had in a long time. Aaron, too, seemed lighter, his usual quiet demeanor softened by her company. Before they parted for the evening, they reached Myra's balcony. She leaned against the railing, looking out at the floating islands in the distance. Aaron stood beside her, close but not touching. For a moment, neither spoke, simply enjoying the view. Then Myra smiled softly. Thank you, Aaron. For today, and for letting me see the side of the village. Aaron nodded, his own smile faint but sincere. I am glad you came, Myra. And I am glad you are here. As he walked away, Myra watched him go, feeling a quiet longing she did not fully understand. The cliffs, the ocean, and the balcony had shown her beauty, but Aaron had shown her something deeper: connection, understanding, and the first stirrings of something she had never felt before. That night, as Myra watched the stars twinkle above the ocean, she thought about the day and the quiet boy who had walked beside her. She felt a spark of hope, a sense that her journey on this planet was only just beginning, and that perhaps, for the first time in her life, she was exactly where she was meant to be. The morning started bright and warm, but by midday, dark clouds rolled over the cliffside village. The wind picked up, howling through narrow streets and tugging at the fabrics hanging from balconies. Myra noticed the change while arranging her notes in her room. She watched the ocean churn below, waves growing restless, and a sense of unease settled in her chest. A loud knock at her door made her jump. Aaron stood there, his hair damp from the sudden drizzle. Myra, he called, voice raised slightly over the wind. A storm is coming. You should not be outside alone. Come with me. Myra quickly grabbed her bag, nodding. Yes, I will follow. They ran along the narrow paths as the rain started falling, heavier now, pounding against the stone streets. Villagers hurried to secure their homes and decorations, shouting to each other over the gusts. Myra's heart raced as she tried to keep her balance on the slippery stones. Aaron held her hand briefly to guide her, the touch brief but reassuring. "I know a safe place," Aaron shouted, leading her toward an old watchtower near the cliffs. The tower had stood for generations, built to withstand the fiercest storms. Myra followed closely, trusting his knowledge completely. Inside the watchtower, the walls were cool and dry, and the wind sounded like a distant roar through the narrow windows. They sat on a small bench, dripping water onto the stone floor. Myra pulled her hair back from her face and took a deep breath. "That was intense," she said, her voice trembling slightly. Aaron nodded, brushing rain from his forehead. "The cliffs can be dangerous in a storm. It is better to wait here until it passes." They sat together in silence at first, listening to the pounding rain and the roar of the waves below. Myra's heart still raced from the adrenaline, but a sense of safety began to grow around Aaron. His calm presence was grounding, and she realized how much she trusted him already. After a while, Myra spoke softly. "I've never seen a storm like this on Earth. It feels alive, almost as if it has a voice." Aaron smiled faintly. "It does. The cliffs and the ocean speak in their own way. Sometimes you need to listen." Myra looked at him, noticing the quiet determination in his eyes. He had always seemed reserved, but now, in the shelter of the watchtower, she saw a side of him that was steady and strong, a side that made her feel safe. Without thinking, she reached out and touched his hand. The contact was brief, but warmth spread through her chest. Aaron's fingers tightened slightly around hers, and for a moment, words were unnecessary. They began to talk then, slowly at first. Myra shared stories of her childhood on Earth, of small towns, starry nights, and endless fields she had once wandered. Aaron listened carefully, asking gentle questions and encouraging her to tell more. Then he spoke of his own life, of the quiet struggles of living in the village, of expectations that weighed on him, and dreams he sometimes hid from everyone. As the storm raged outside, Myra realized how rare this moment was. They were two people from very different worlds, yet they were sharing their deepest thoughts, their fears, and their hopes. The storm, which had seemed frightening at first, became a backdrop for a bond that was quietly forming between them. Hours passed. The rain slowed to a gentle drizzle, and the wind softened. Outside, the sky began to clear, revealing glimpses of the orange and pink sunset behind the clouds. Myra and Aaron moved to the watchtower's balcony to look out over the cliffs. Water from the storm dripped from the stones, and the ocean sparkled under the fading light. Myra breathed in the fresh air, feeling a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. "Thank you, Aaron," she said quietly. "Not just for keeping me safe, but for being here. I don't think I would have managed this storm alone." Aaron looked at her, his eyes soft. "You wouldn't have to. I will always be here when you need help." For a moment, they stood in silence, hands brushing lightly, hearts full of unspoken feelings. The storm had passed, but its memory remained, a reminder of how fragile yet beautiful life on the cliffs could be. Myra felt a new closeness to Aaron, a sense that their bond was more than friendship now. As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and violet, Myra realized that this day, with its fear and its wonder, had changed something inside her. She had come seeking adventure, but she had found trust, understanding, and a connection that made her feel truly alive. And as she looked at Aaron standing beside her on the balcony, she knew that this cliffside village, with its storms and its beauty, had become more than a place. It had become the start of something extraordinary, something that belonged to both of them. The storm had passed, leaving the cliffside village washed clean and sparkling under the moonlight. Myra stood on her balcony, wrapped in a soft shawl, her eyes tracing the silver path of moonlight across the ocean. The air smelled fresh, with a hint of whetstone and flowers from the village gardens. Tonight was quiet, almost magical, as if the world itself had paused to breathe. A soft knock drew her attention. Aaron stepped onto the balcony, carrying 2 lanterns. "I thought we could take them to the edge," he said quietly, "and watch them flow together." Myra smiled, her heart lifting. "I would like that." She took one lantern, feeling its warmth in her hands, and followed him along the narrow path to the cliffside edge. The wind was gentle, a stark contrast to the fierce storm they had faced just hours ago. The floating islands in the distance glowed softly under the moonlight, and the ocean shimmered like liquid silver. They placed the lanterns side by side and lit the small flames, watching as the light flickered and danced. Myra felt a strange mix of peace and anticipation. "It is beautiful," she whispered. "Almost like it is alive." Aaron nodded. "Each lantern carries something important," he said. "A hope, a dream, a wish. It is our way of sharing what we hold inside." Myra looked at him, noticing the way the moonlight caught in his hair and the calm strength in his eyes. "Aaron, can I tell you a secret?" she asked softly. "You can tell me anything," he replied, his voice gentle, encouraging. Myra hesitated for a moment, then spoke. I have been searching for something for a long time. On Earth, I felt out of place, like I didn't belong anywhere. But here, with you, with this village, I feel like I might have found it." Aaron's gaze softened, and he placed a hand lightly on hers, not touching the lantern. "Myra, I have felt the same," he admitted. "I have lived here all my life, but I never knew I was missing something until you arrived. You see things in a way that makes the world brighter, and being near you, it feels right." Myra's heart beat faster. She had not expected him to say that, not so soon, yet it felt natural, as if it had always been meant to happen. I feel the same, Aaron. I never imagined I would feel this way, but I cannot ignore it." They stood together in silence, hands close, hearts full of unspoken emotions. The lanterns flickered in the gentle breeze, and Myra realized that this simple moment, the soft wind, the glowing lanterns, the quiet sound of the ocean, was one of the most perfect she had ever experienced. Finally, Aaron broke the silence. "Do you know what I wish for?" he asked. Myra shook her head, her eyes wide. "That we can share more moments like this," he said, his voice steady. "Not just tonight, but every day. I want to know you, to be with you, and to see where life takes us, together." Myra felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had hoped for this, but hearing him say it made it feel real. "I want that too," she said softly. "I want to be with you, Aaron, and discover this world, and ourselves, together." They lit the lanterns together, holding them carefully as they released them over the cliffside. The lanterns floated upward, joining others that shimmered like stars above the ocean. Myra and Aaron watched silently, feeling the weight of their confession settle into a gentle happiness. "I never thought I would feel this way," Myra admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "And yet, it feels like it was always meant to be." Aaron turned to her, his eyes reflecting the lantern light. I feel the same. Sometimes, the world surprises us in ways we never expect, but the best surprises are the ones that show us where we truly belong. For a long while, they remained on the balcony, speaking softly, sharing small stories, and watching the lanterns drift farther into the sky. The ocean glimmered below, the floating islands glowed in the distance, and the stars above seemed to shine just for them. As the night deepened, Myra leaned against Aaron's shoulder, feeling a sense of safety and connection she had never known before. The cliffs, the ocean, and the village had given her beauty, but Aaron had given her something even more precious, a heart that felt seen, understood, and valued. And as they stood together, hands brushing and hearts full, Myra realized that this cliffside balcony was no longer just a place to see the ocean, it was a place where love had quietly begun, under the silver light of the moon, and among the floating lanterns that carried their dreams into the night. The morning light spilled over the cliffs, but Myra's heart felt heavy. The joy of the previous night lingered, yet she could not ignore the thoughts that pressed on her mind. Her work as an engineer called her to explore further, to travel to distant planets and study their wonders. But staying here, with Aaron and the village she had come to love, also felt right. She leaned on the balcony railing, staring at the sparkling ocean below, trying to sort through her thoughts. Aaron appeared quietly behind her, carrying a small basket of fresh bread. "You look deep in thought," he said gently. "Is something troubling you?" Myra shook her head, smiling faintly. "It's not trouble exactly, just choices. I came here seeking adventure, and I've found more than I expected. But I also feel pulled in two directions." Aaron set the basket on the table and joined her at the railing. "I understand," he said softly. "Sometimes, life asks us to choose between duty and desire. And neither is easy to give up." Myra took a deep breath. "Part of me wants to continue exploring, to see more of the galaxy. But part of me wants to stay here, with you. I've never felt so connected to anyone or anywhere." Aaron nodded, his eyes thoughtful. "I have my own struggles. My family and the village expect me to take certain responsibilities. I am supposed to follow the path they set for me, but my heart, it longs for something different. Something that feels true." They stood together in silence, letting the wind carry away some of the heaviness. The ocean below roared softly, and the cliffs seemed to breathe with them. Myra realized that Aaron's struggles mirrored her own. Both of them were standing at the edge of choices, unsure which path would bring them happiness. "I don't want us to be apart," Myra admitted quietly, her voice trembling slightly. "But I also don't want to give up my dreams." Aaron turned to face her, his gaze steady. "Neither do I. And maybe, we don't have to give them up entirely. Perhaps there is a way to follow our hearts without losing ourselves or each other." Myra's eyes brightened. "You really think that's possible?" Aaron smiled softly. "I do. We just need to be honest with ourselves and with each other. If we care for someone, we help them grow, even if it means making difficult choices. And I care for you, Myra." Myra felt a warmth spread through her chest. The uncertainty of her path seemed lighter now, because she knew that Aaron understood her in a way no one else ever had. "I care for you too," she said. "More than I realized until now." They spent the morning planning small steps. Aaron spoke of ways he could balance the village's expectations with his own desires. Myra thought about how she could continue her studies without leaving the village entirely. They brainstormed ideas, laughed at the more impossible suggestions, and found comfort in the simple act of talking openly about their hopes and fears. As the sun climbed higher, Myra felt a sense of calm she had not known in months. The cliffs, the ocean, and the village had taught her about resilience and beauty, but Aaron had taught her about trust, patience, and the strength of partnership. By afternoon, they climbed to the cliffside balcony, carrying notebooks and small maps. Myra pointed to distant floating islands. "I want to explore them someday," she said. Aaron nodded. "And I will help you. Not as a guide, but as someone who believes in your dreams. We will find a way to be together while chasing what matters to both of us." Myra smiled, feeling hope blossom in her chest. "Then we will make it work," she said. "Even if the path is not simple, even if it is full of challenges, we will face them together." The wind played through their hair, carrying the scent of salt and flowers. Below, the ocean sparkled like 1,000 scattered gems. Myra leaned on Aaron's shoulder, and he wrapped an arm around her gently. For the first time in a long while, she felt certain not about the future, not about every decision but about the present, about this moment, and about the bond they shared. The cliffs had tested them with storms and challenges, but standing together on the balcony, looking at the vast horizon, Myra realized that no choice seemed impossible as long as they faced it side by side. And in that certainty, there was joy, hope, and the quiet promise of a shared journey that neither had expected, yet both longed for. The first light of dawn spilled over the cliffs, painting the ocean and floating islands in soft shades of gold and pink. Myra stood on the balcony, wrapped in a warm shawl, listening to the gentle sound of the waves crashing below. Today felt different. There was a calm certainty in the air, as if the world itself had paused to witness something important. Aaron appeared quietly beside her, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. "Good morning," he said softly, smiling. "I thought these would brighten the day." Myra took the flowers, inhaling their sweet scent. "They are perfect," she said. "Thank you, Aaron." They stood together in silence, watching the sun rise over the horizon. The ocean sparkled like liquid gold, and the floating islands glowed with the morning light. Myra felt a deep sense of peace. The cliffs, the village, and the ocean had become part of her, but Aaron, quiet, patient, and steady, had become part of her heart. "I've been thinking," Myra began, her voice calm but full of emotion, "about everything we talked about, the choices, the future, the dreams we want to follow." Aaron turned to her, his eyes attentive. "And I've decided," she said softly, "that I want to stay, at least for now. To explore this place, and to explore life, with you." A gentle smile spread across Aaron's face. "I'm glad," he said simply, though Myra could see the happiness in his eyes. "I want that too. And I will do my best to support your dreams, even as we build a life together here." Myra felt a warmth spread through her chest. The decision had not been easy, but it felt right. The cliffs had tested her courage, the storms had tested her resolve, and now, standing here with Aaron, she felt as if every step of her journey had led to this moment. Together, they walked along the cliffside balcony, hands brushing lightly, hearts full of quiet joy. Villagers began their morning routines, smiling and greeting them as they passed. Myra felt welcomed, not just as a visitor, but as someone who belonged. The village had become a home, and Aaron had become a companion, a friend, and something even deeper. They stopped at the edge of the balcony, looking out over the ocean. Myra held Aaron's hand, feeling the warmth and strength of his touch. "I never imagined," she said, "that I could feel so connected to a place, and to a person." Aaron squeezed her hand gently. "Life has a way of surprising us," he said. But sometimes, the best surprises are the ones that help us see where we truly belong. Myra leaned against him, feeling the steady beat of his heart. The sun climbed higher, casting its golden light across the village and the cliffs. For the first time in a long while, she felt completely content. Adventure still called to her, but she knew that she could face it alongside Aaron, without losing the connection they had built. The day passed quietly. They walked through the village, helping with small tasks, laughing with the children, and sharing stories with the elders. Myra marveled at how alive the village felt, yet how calm and steady life could be when shared with someone who truly understood you. As evening approached, Myra and Aaron returned to the balcony. The sky turned shades of pink and violet, reflecting on the calm ocean below. They stood side by side, hands intertwined, watching the floating islands glow in the fading light. "I think this is perfect," Myra said softly. "Not just the view, but this moment, and every day we will share here." Aaron nodded, resting his head lightly against hers. "It is perfect," he agreed. "And it is just the beginning." The stars began to twinkle as the sun disappeared behind the horizon. Myra and Aaron remained on the balcony, quietly enjoying the peaceful night. They did not need words, the gentle touch of their hands, the warmth of their closeness, and the beauty of the world around them said everything. For Myra, the cliffside balcony had once been a place of wonder and discovery. Now, it had become a symbol of belonging, love, and hope. And as she looked at Aaron, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, with courage, patience, and a bond that could not be broken. The ocean whispered below, the wind caressed the cliffs, and the floating islands shimmered in the distance. Myra and Aaron stood there, hearts full, hands entwined, and souls connected. The cliffside balcony was no longer just a place to admire the view, it was a home, a promise, and the beginning of a life they would share together, filled with adventure, love, and endless possibilities. And as the night embraced them, Myra whispered, "This is where I belong." Aaron smiled, pressing her hand to his chest. "And I belong here too, with you." Together, they watched the stars, the ocean, and the floating islands, knowing that the journey ahead would be bright, because they would face it side by side.